Thanks so much for joining us here on Atlanta News First Plus. I'm Joy Lim-Nakrin with a look at some of the top stories we're following right now. And the big story that we are following at this moment is Hannah Payne has now been sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. This is following her conviction for the murder of 62-year-old Kenneth Herring. We have been following this story very closely, of course. Let me show you just some video that we shot during the course of the trial. That is Hannah Payne, now convicted of tracking down, shooting, and killing 62-year-old Kenneth Herring after he left the scene of a car accident in 2019 in Clayton County. A jury took just over 2 hours to convict her of all 8 counts against her, including malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and multiple counts of some of these crimes. And again, a jury is now sentenced her, or a judge, I should say, has sentenced her to life in prison with the possibility of parole. During closing arguments, Payne's attorney had said that his client is, quote, not a killer, argued the state didn't prove whose finger was on the trigger when the gun went off, saying, quote, this is not some murderer, this is a young girl who got caught up in the wrong situation with a good heart and good intention. But the prosecution had a very different story. During closing arguments, they said it was clear Payne was the only aggressor in the case, that she acted with malice when she chased Herring down and pulled out her gun. Prosecution saying, quote, do you know how much entitlement you have to chase somebody down, detain them, jump out of your car and run toward a stranger? The audacity to come here and take the stand and blame everybody else. Clearly, the jury agreed. On Monday, Payne herself took the witness stand, testifying that she was trying to be a, quote, messenger for police when she approached Herring's truck while on the phone with a 911 operator, despite being told not to. This is a picture of the victim you're looking at right here. Jurors heard the 2 911 calls that Payne made during the incident, and prosecutors said that Payne followed Herring after she witnessed him run a red light, hit an 18-wheeler, and drive away. Prosecutors argued Payne ignored dispatchers who told her not to engage with Herring, and as Payne approached Herring, prosecutors argued there was a struggle and she shot him. Again, Payne's lawyer argued she acted in self-defense. On the witness stand, Payne testified that it was Herring that pulled the trigger during the struggle. So clearly some inconsistent, a little bit of inconsistent statements. But now Payne's attorney has filed a motion for a new trial. Of course, we're still waiting to see if that will be granted. And we're going to keep following the latest on this, of course. But very strong reaction from the courtroom following that verdict, and of course following the sentencing as well. Let's listen.
I can't call him if I wanted to. I can't visit him if I wanted to. I can go to the gravesite, but he can't respond.
And so that is one of the loved ones of Kenneth Herring during victims' impact statements during today's sentencing. But ultimately, Payne is given the possibility of parole with her life sentence. This is a story that we are going to continue to follow here on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus very, very closely, of course. Okay, I also want to turn...
I can't call him if I wanted to. I can't.
Okay, I also want to turn to the latest on another major story that we are following, and this involves the massive Fulton County election meddling case involving the former president, Donald Trump, and several co-defendants. It was initially 19 that were charged. But there are new developments in just the last few hours because a federal appeals court here in Atlanta heard arguments as to whether co-defendant Mark Meadows, who was the chief of staff of the former President Trump, whether he should be able to have his case moved to federal court. My colleague, Atlanta News First reporter Rebecca Schramm, was inside the courtroom.
Attorneys for former Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows arrived at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals with a tough task, trying to convince a 3-judge panel, 2 of them appointed by presidents who are Democrats, that a lower court judge was wrong when he declined to remove the Republicans' case from state court and send it to federal court.
The argument that was being made by his lawyer was basically, hey, he was chief of staff, anything he did is covered by the removal statute because he did it as chief of staff. And that's not a very good argument, but that's really seemed to be all that Meadows' lawyer really had to say.
Georgia State University professor of law Clark Cunningham sat in on the appeal hearing where cameras are not allowed.
The panel was really tough on the fact that Meadows could not very effectively describe what the limits of his office were.
Cunningham says he also found it interesting that the judges spent a lot of time talking about their interpretation that the removal statute only applies to current federal officials.
If that decision is made that the statute does not apply to former officers, which no court has ever decided up till now, then that has a lot of significance for the country. But it also means, I think, that these particular defendants have a much longer delay, because I think the U.S. Supreme Court will take the case then.
Mark Meadows did not attend the appeal hearing. No timeline yet on when the court might announce its decision. In downtown Atlanta, Rebecca Schramm, Atlanta News First.
And our thanks to Rebecca for that report. Also want to let you know about a double shooting that happened near the campus of Georgia State University. One person is dead, another one injured following the shooting. It happened just at Piedmont Avenue and John Wesley Dobbs. That is also where we find Madeline Montgomery with more.
We are here surrounded by Georgia State University buildings, and while police say this time this shooting did not involve Georgia State students, that has not always been the case. Crime scene tape in the middle of campus.
It's terrible, but not surprising.
Atlanta police saying one man is dead, another at Grady Memorial in stable condition. Neither were Georgia State students, but the shooting happened right in the middle of school.
My mom always worried. She called me every night.
I stay in my dorm most of the time. If I ever have to leave, I make sure it's daytime for the most part. If I'm back, I make sure I'm back before it's too dark so I don't get caught in the crossfire.
Police say this shooting was the result of a fight between men in their early 20s. It's not the first time a scene like this has been seen here. In October, a shooting at the racetrack on Piedmont and John Wesley Dobbs left 4 people injured, including 2 GSU students, one eventually dying. A year ago, at the same gas station by campus, another Georgia State student was shot and killed.
I saw the aftermath, and every other thing I see an email. It's nothing new to me. It's something I see often. It's kind of sucks because this campus isn't terrible, but when you hear a shooting every day, and it kind of mutters down how cool this school is.
Atlanta police say they believe they have the suspected shooter in custody. Reporting in downtown Atlanta, I'm Madeline Montgomery, Atlanta News First.
Thank you to Madeline for that report. Okay, we also want to let you know about the latest involving former New York City mayor and former Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani, and the case against him brought by a Georgia mother and daughter, Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman. So Giuliani has a potential multi-million-dollar decision about him sitting in the hands of an 8-person federal jury right now. Deliberations are underway. So this mom and daughter, they were falsely accused of committing election fraud when counting ballots here in Fulton County in the 2020 presidential election. Again, Giuliani accused them of committing election fraud, and as a result, they received numerous hateful messages and death threats, racist messages as well. During this trial, some of those messages were read out loud. Some of these hateful voicemails were actually played in court for this jury as well. The pair is seeking $24 million each in reputational damages, plus punitive and emotional damages as well.
It's affected my life in a major way, in every way, all because of lies.
So again, now it's up to a jury to decide how much this misinformation is going to cost Giuliani. He was expected to testify, but after hearing, some of that very tearful testimony from the 2 victims, he decided not to testify. But, a judge has already ruled that he is, in fact, liable for defaming these 2 women. But the question before the jury is just how much should he pay up? We are going to continue to follow all the latest on this and your other top stories here on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus. Have a great day.